love, you're listening to the Died on Ashanta podcast. I'm a resilience strategist and migrant integration specialist who has spent the last 20 years traveling, working, and studying throughout the Caribbean, North America, Europe, Africa, and Asia. As a globetrotter, I quickly learned how to bounce back from crisis and how to thrive in new and strange places. I've used my training and experience to develop a resilience-based framework, and now I help others to get over the hurdles that come with living in a foreign country. Now on this podcast, I invite you to join me on this journey of living with simplicity, joy, and resiliency. From green smoothies to goal setting, we'll cover it all. We'll talk about all the things that help us to thrive through the storm. Welcome to the Died on Ashanta podcast. This is episode 20, and today we are talking about soft resilience. Now, before we get into this week's message, I just wanted to remind you that this episode is number 20, and we have 20 more weeks in my countdown of 40 weeks to my 40th birthday. It is amazing to me that the whole 20 weeks have flown by, and in another 20 weeks I will be crossing that threshold into a new chapter of life, of seeing life through the eyes of a 40-year-old. And it's been a brilliant journey sharing with you my lessons of resilience, whether it is mind, body, spirit, or just in the things that we release to become lighter and more flexible and able to bounce back from whatever crises that come in our lives, adversities that we encounter. And today we're focusing on just exactly that, the things we can release. And when I talk about soft resilience, before we even get to the soft part, we're talking about resilience. And for many people, when they hear, oh, this person is so resilient, or anything to do with resilience, they begin to think of being tough, being mentally tough, being a very rigid person, not letting down or letting go of situations, and being able to be rugged and to manage rough situations, to be a kind of hardened person who can go through a hard life, and as we'd say back in Jamaica, take lick. So when a hard knock life comes, you're able to just punch your way through. But I want to suggest that there's another approach to resilience that would probably serve you much further and bring you much farther. And the soft aspect of resilience, soft resilience is actually an established principle or definition within the field of civil engineering when you're thinking of buildings and structures that are put up in our cities across the world. And soft resilience is all about one's ability to absorb and recover from the impact of disruptive events without any fundamental changes in the way you function or the way you are structured, the way you are made up. Basically, it means you may bend, but you will never break. And that speaks to the power of flexibility. It speaks to your ability to flow with the waves and that come. It talks about your ability to be free, to embrace freedom, and to go with new directions, new opportunities, and to just let go of rigidity. And most importantly, very core to soft resilience is the ability to feel, because when you are being tough, we talk about being tough-skinned, thick-skinned, you're not feeling anything. You're not allowing yourself to acknowledge the emotions that may come with a particular crisis or an adverse experience. And if one has no idea of how can a building have soft resilience, my experience of soft resilience in terms of physical structures always brings my mind back to Japanese buildings, specifically Japanese homes and how they are designed. Now, anyone who knows anything about Japan knows that there are lots of earthquakes. From my experience, it seems like every single day that you open your eyes in Japan, there's an earthquake, sometimes multiple earthquakes a day. And the way how the homes are designed, whether I lived in like a two-story building or I lived in like an apartment with like multiple floors, these buildings were always designed in such a way that there are kind of like some plates within the foundation that shift and allow that shift around, almost on the ground, that allow the building to shift around, so it's not drilled down like with these solid, I guess, columns or poles into the ground, but they're on plates that allows the building to shift. And while you'd say the base of the building is shifting around with the swaying of the earth as the earth quakes, the actual structure, meaning you'd say what would be the columns, or where we'd have, say, steel rods in, say, buildings in other countries, these, the way it's designed, the building sways. So it's not this stiff, rigid structure that would break or crack under pressure, the pressure of an earthquake, but it sways. And so you will literally be in your home and watching the building shift and sway while everything is shaking around. And this is exactly what I'm speaking to when I talk about flexibility, flow, freedom, and feeling, because you're feeling all the quakes that the earth is going through. You're not stiff, and the building isn't shattering from the impact of the earth moving. And that's how I want you to view yourself when you aspire towards becoming more and more resilient. It's about releasing the dead weight idea that you must be unmoved and hardened in order to survive. And because we don't just want to survive, but we want to thrive, I'd encourage you to embrace soft resilience. And my 3 tips that I would give you for how you can soften your efforts to be resilient is: number 1, surrender. Surrender to the lessons that life is bringing you. A lot of the difficult experiences that we have in life are here to bring us lessons that will strengthen us and equip us, empower us to move on to higher heights and become greater, much more powerful than we are today. Number 2 would be about support. Accept support. We assume that, it's just me against the world. It's never about you against the world. It's about all of us living in community, and I am strong where you are weak, and you are strong where I am weak. And so please be willing to accept support. Your greatest source of resilience will be the people who stand with you and lift you up when you can't on your own. And then the 3rd tip would be to be secure in the solutions that are bound to come. Life is never designed that you will just be devastated and crushed and defeated. There are always solutions on the way. They may not come in the speed that you would want them to, or in the packaging that you'd want them to, or even being delivered by the person you expected it from. But solutions always come, and your ability to be calm and to absorb whatever situations you are dealing with will always be centered on your ability to be confident and secure in the belief that your solutions are on their way to you. So that's it. Surrender, support, and secure. And if you are ever wondering about, what book am I going to read that could help me to soften my approach to resilience, I highly recommend Molise Crawford's Unlocking the Queen Code, Divine Keys to Reclaiming Your Throne. And in the very first chapter, she starts with the first key being surrender. And even as you think of the buildings in Japan swaying in the earthquakes, the movement that the earth is making, that is a beautiful example of surrender. And as we talk about buildings shaking as earthquakes, another visual of soft resilience comes from the wind and its impact on things like the trees. And so I'm pointing to or hinting to a Hausa proverb. This week's proverb comes from the Hausa people. And the proverb says, "O wind, you have no weight, but you cut down the biggest trees." And if you are a Caribbean person like me, you definitely know about the power of the wind when we talk about hurricanes. If you have ever seen the devastation after a hurricane has passed through your location, then you will see how the soft wind that brushes against your skin and makes you feel cool and soothed is the same wind that will rip up trees that are hundreds of years old, that have deep roots in the ground, that are firm and require a sharp and heavy axe to cut them down. But yet the wind that has no weight is able to cut it down. A very beautiful and poignant proverb there from the Hausa people. I hope you can reflect on that a little bit more as we seek to release those hardened approaches to thriving in and through life. So I hope this is an encouragement to you to soften your approach, to surrender a bit, to accept support, and to stand secure in the belief that your solutions are coming. So until next time, do have a fabulous week, and use simple don't forget to use simple approaches to pursue your joy by being resilient. All right, so that's it from me. Have a great week. Thanks so much for listening, love. If you enjoyed this episode, head over to diedonashanta.com. I'd love to hear your thoughts on today's message. Be sure to drop your email address so I can send you some helpful resources, updates, and the occasional music video that I may have on repeat. Make sure you subscribe and spread the love with someone you care about.